Hello and welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to use the prismatic constraint. And the prismatic constraint lets you build things like elevators and moving or sliding platforms. So let me show you what this looks like. So using the prismatic constraint, you can build something like this. And this definitely isn't polished or anything, but it works. So if you click on this little green button, the elevator goes up. Click on it again, elevator goes down. If you step on this one and click the glowing button, it will slide you, and this I actually have it sliding for a while. But again, we weren't able to work with these constraints because they do require code in order to control them. Specifically, click events and then changing some of the target angles on these constraints. And there's actually different ways to make things move, and using this prismatic constraint is one of the smoother ways to actually move something across the screen. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So let me turn around and I'll just build these again. And let me save the ones that we've already created, or that I've already created in here. I'll just put them in a demo folder real quick. Just in case I forget something, I can go and look for a setting or something. Okay, so let me close that. Actually, I can put everything in there. Yeah, there you go. I just like to have everything organized. Okay, so the first thing is we need the parts, and you already saw what it's going to look like. So we need something for the platform. So a block, and let me change that to plastic. And you can pick any color you want. I'm just gonna make this one green. And then I'll make this the, I guess platform is a good name for it. Okay, and let me change the size. Let's see, so right now this is 412, that's way too small. Let's make it 818, I think that's what I used. Yeah, and we can always test it. Let's see if it's big enough. Yeah, that's plenty big. Okay, so 818 is a good size for this. And let's see, what's the next thing? The next thing is we want a tall, skinny pole. So let's make another part. This one I'll make a different color. Sure, why not? Okay, and I'll call this pole. Pole is a good name for it. Okay, and then the size on this, let's see, we need to make it nice and tall. That's the Y direction. So let's try 20. You know what? That's actually not. I mean, you can make this as long as you want. Let's try 30. Yeah, that looks better. 30 is a good number. Okay, and then the sides, let's see, maybe 2. I forget what I used on the other one. Oh, that's kind of big. Yeah, we'll just try that. You can make these any size you want, actually. This is pretty rough. Most of this stuff you would have invisible anyway. You'll see that when we make the slider. I make the pole invisible on that one. Okay, so now we need to, oh, I also need a button. Let me move this out of the way real quick. Oh, and I don't have collisions on. Let me turn collisions on. Okay. And I also need a button to click. So let me add one more block. And this one we want pretty small. Let me make it over here. Let me make this a different color. Okay, and then again, this is going to be my button. And let's see, let's make it, let's see what 212 looks like. Yeah, it looks good to me. I'm just going to move it over here a little bit. Right in the corner. Okay. Now on this one, let's see. Actually, I'll weld it here in a second. I wonder if I should move. I wonder if I can weld it now. Let me just select both of them. So you can just left click or control left click to select both of the pieces and then move them up. And you'll see what I'm going to do here. We need them to be aligned before we connect the constraint. So I want them to be, let me see if I can get this. Ah, it's still a little low. There we go. You know, I wonder if this one's in the ground. Hold on. Oh, it is. Hold on. This one's stuck in the ground. I think because I had collisions off. That's why it looks so. That's why it looks so short. I built it and it was part of it was in the ground. Okay, that's better actually. Now I can move this up and down. There we go. Okay. And again, let me move this so that these are at the same height. Okay, and let's check and make sure everything's aligned. Yeah, now they are aligned. You can see. Okay, so now the other thing I want to make sure is that they're aligned horizontally. So let me see. And that looks pretty good. And here's an easy way to check. So this is, let me see, what direction is that? That is the Z direction. Oh, wait, no, the X direction. So the X direction goes this way. Okay. And so we need to check that these both have the same X coordinate. So let's see. The X coordinate is 2 for this one. And for the platform, it's, oh, wait, why is that? Huh, that's weird. Maybe because it's bigger. Let me move it. Hold on. -4. That's weird. Hold on. These should have had the. Oh, I was reading the wrong number. Okay, so yeah, the position, the X value is -4. I was reading the size on that one before. Yeah, so they both have a -4 for the X position. That means that they're aligned. So now, what I want to do, and let me change let me make sure, because I want to be 1. This might be okay. You might need to change this to 0.5. And that's just so that we can put these connections for the constraint right in the middle, because that's where we want them. I guess you could have them here and here as well, but I just like to have everything perfectly aligned. Okay, so now that we have everything aligned, what we want to do, oh, and let me see. So this one is going to be anchored, and then these two are not going to be anchored. And we're actually going to weld these together here in a second. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and connect our constraint. So we go to create here in the model menu. And we click on, which one is it again? I always get prismatic and cylindrical constraints confused, but I'm pretty sure it's the prismatic. Okay. And oh, you know what I want to do? I want a side or a diagonal view so I can see where these arrows are lining up. Let me see. And you might have to move your camera a little bit. Yeah, this is good. So see how with the 1, since I made these a width of 2, it lets me place it right in the middle, and then over here as well. Okay, so I want it right in the middle, and I want it pointing up. Let me zoom in. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so do you see how I can, if I move it slightly, I guess I can't do it. Oh, there it goes. See, it moves the yellow arrow horizontal, and if I move it slightly, it moves it up. We want them up, because that's the direction that these are going to move. These are going to move vertically. Okay, so that's the first one. I'm going to just click for the first connection. I'm going to move over here. And if I move, I guess I can't really mess this up. So I'm going to go ahead and click here for the second connection. And we're done. And if you click on the red thing, it says they're not aligned because they need to be right on top of each other. So this should be okay. I think as long as the yellow axis are aligned, we're good. Okay, let's try it. So now what I need to do is I need to move this piece so that it's directly, so that the attachments are on top of each other. There it goes. And I'm going to move this piece also so it stays in the corner. Okay. The other thing we need to do is we need to weld this to this. So let's go ahead and just do that now. So create weld here to here. And now whenever this green platform moves, the yellow button will move with it. And let me see if it's too bright. Sometimes when I make this neon, it's just really, really bright. Yeah, that neon is really, really bright. I wish there was a way. I guess there probably is a way to not make it glow so much, but that's fine for now. Okay, so we have everything connected. And let's see, what do I want to do next? I wonder if we can test this. So if we look here, we have a prismatic constraint. And what we're going to do, kind of like what we did with the hinge when we controlled it with code, is that we turn this into a servo. And when you do that, it gives you a few settings. So remember, the 10,000 was not strong enough, so let's make this 100,000. Speed, I usually just make this 10. And then target position is 0. Okay, that should be okay. Let's see if this works so far. At least let's see if it stands up. Okay, so let's go ahead and push play. And then we're gonna test. We're gonna test a couple of target positions. Yeah, okay, so that looks good. So let's change the target position, and that should make this move. Okay, so let's go ahead and change the target position to, let's see, and I think it's going to be down. So let's try negative, I don't know, negative 20. See if that works. Okay, let's go ahead and push play. And hopefully this thing will move down. Let's see if it does. And it does. Awesome. I love it when I haven't done this demo in a while, so I love it when things work without me having to go look stuff up. Okay, that's actually, okay, so one of the good things about testing these values is that it's a little too high. I mean, you could jump up there, but let's actually make it like 20, I don't know, negative 20, let's try negative 28, see how close to the floor that is. It should be really close, like, nah, let's do negative 27 actually. That should be just slightly above the floor because this pole is 30 and this platform is too thick. 2 units thick. So if I do 27, that's 29. This is 30. 29 is like 1 less. So it should be like 1 off the floor, hopefully. Let's see. Let's see if that takes it to 1 unit off the floor. Ah, it's perfect. And that's just enough for me to walk onto. And I guess I could have made it. Looks like I could have made it. Let's try even a little lower. Let's see. So what did I use? I used 27. Let's try negative 28. Okay, let's see how close that is to the ground. I like it. That's perfect. Okay. So now we actually have everything wired up. All we need to do now is make it so that when we click this button, it changes the target position, and that's it. That's all that's involved in getting this to work. So let's go ahead and let's see. Let's group all this together and let's add a script. So I'm gonna select everything by control left clicking on this stuff and then grouping, and I'll call this my elevator. Okay. Now I can open this up, and what I want to do is I want to add a script, and this will be my script elevator. So I'm just going to change the name. Okay, and I can get rid of this. Okay, and so we already know what we're going to do. We're going to have a function called onClick. Oh, and that reminds me, in order to detect the onClick, we need a click detector on our button. There we go. Yeah, this won't work unless you have a click detector on that button. Okay, so let's see. So what we want, again, is we want a function on click, and then we want a event. Okay, and let me think. You know what? We need to let me show you actually. So here's the ugly way to do this, right? Because what you need is the click detector. So let me show you how the ugly way to do this, and then we'll use a variable to make this nice and neat. Okay, so here's our script, and in order to get to the click detector, we have to go up to the elevator, that's the parent, and then down to the button, down to the click detector. So what you would do is you would say script.parent. Now that's the elevator, and then I want to go down. So remember, script.parent is this. So I want to go down now to the button. So then I would say button dot, and here is the click detector. Okay, and then from here it's mouse click and then connect, and then I just put my on click function inside. But here's the thing, this thing's a mess, right? Look at this. This is script.parent.button.clickDetector.mouseClick. Anytime you've got all of these things in a series like that, it just makes it really hard to see what's going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a variable. And remember, a variable is just a way to rename something. So we're going to say, we're going to call this click dt. And I like to not use the whole word just to make it a little shorter. So we're going to call this click det, and it's going to be equal to this thing. So I'm just going to copy it. It's going to be equal to script parent button click detector. So Control C to copy, and then Control V to paste. Okay, so we have one of our variables. So we have click det equals script.parent.button.clickDetector. And what that allows us to do is to replace this mess with click det. Oh, whoops, didn't want to do that. And this is a lot easier to read, right? So whenever the click detector, my click det variable, has a mouse click, we connect that event to our function. And so let's just test it and make sure everything works. So we'll say print whoops. Oh, I didn't need that. Elevator button pressed. Okay. And let's make sure everything works with this. So let's go ahead and push play. And we have our output window open. Remember, if it's not open, you can just right click here and open your output window. Let's go over. Got to be close enough. Make sure the little hand shows up. And it works. It says elevator button press, and even tells us what script and line number that came from. Okay, perfect. All right, so now what we have to do is actually wire this up, and we're going to use an if else statement like before. So it's going to be if, and then you hit enter, and it auto completes for you. And then we're going to do else if, hit enter, and it adds everything in except what you need to put in yourself. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to check if this, where is it? We want to check if this prismatic constraint, if the target position is 0 or -28, because those are the two places, the two positions, the two y values that it's going to move between, right? So we're going to check. But the thing is here, look, this is what it's going to look like, because we have to get from the script using parent-child relationships all the way to here. So we're going to use a variable again. So we're going to write it out just so you can see how ugly it is. So we got to do script.parent again, script.parent. And now we're here at the elevator. Okay, now we want to go down. Let me close this. We want to go down to the pole. So parent.pole, there it is. And then we want to go down to the prismatic constraint. And then we want to pick the target position property. And I'm running out of room. And we want to check if it's 0. So we do 2 equals and then 0. Okay. Now this is a mess, so I want to use a variable again. So I'm going to make a little space. I'm going to call this prism con for a prismatic constraint. Like I said, I like to abbreviate. You want to keep these names as short as possible. That way, I mean, the whole point of using these variable names is to make everything nice and neat. So make them as short as possible. Like, you want them as short as possible, but where you can still tell what they are, right? So you don't want to call these like X or Y, because you'll never remember what X and Y is. Give them names that actually mean something. So I'm going to replace all of this with prismcon. There we go. Okay, so if the prismatic constraint target position is equal to 0, then we're going to do something else. And actually, you know what? You don't really need an else if here, because let me think. Yeah, you know what we do need? We need an else. And I don't think you need a then. Yeah, so we're basically just going to check if it's equal to 0. If it's not, we're going to move it. Okay, so if it's not, we're going to say prism con dot target position is going to be equal to 1 equal sign. We're going to make it negative 28 because those are our two values. Now here's the thing. If it's 0, we move it to negative 28. If it's not 0, we want to move it back to 0. Right? Because if it's not 0, that means it's at negative 28. So we want to move it back to 0. And that is actually it. That is the entire script for controlling our little elevator. So let's check. Let's see if it works. So we do play. And it comes down, which I actually like. I think this is a better way to, oh, yeah, you got to go on there. And let's check if it works. So we click on it. It moves me up. Let's see if it stops. It does. Look at that right at the top. And then I click on it and all the way to the bottom. And it should be a little bit of space. Yes, perfect. And I can go back up. And here's the thing. You can actually click in between and it'll send you back to 0. It should. Let me see. Let me zoom out. Oh, let me zoom out so you can see. So if I click on this and I click on it again, it moves me back up. It doesn't wait, which is good. Okay, awesome. So that worked. We have a working elevator platform. And one thing you could do, again, like I said, this isn't like the most beautiful platform, but what you can do is just get rid of the pole, right? And the way you can do that is just by making it invisible and turning off the can collide property. So if you set transparency to 1 and then you turn off the can collide property, now I've never done this, so oh yeah, I have done this. I did this on the slider, so it should work exactly the same, except it'll look a little nicer. Now it's just this floating platform in space. Let's test it. Yeah, and down. Okay, now this I really like the prismatic constraint. I think this is probably my favorite because this is a pretty, this is a pretty good looking effect, right? You have this like elevator and it's not that difficult to make, right? You have 3 parts, 1 constraint, and then the code is only like 7 lines or something. Yeah, well, okay, maybe a little more, like 9 lines, but still, this isn't a lot of work to get something that works and looks really good. Okay, so you can do this to move in any direction. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to use this to move horizontally. So we're going to make something like this, but actually it's over here. We're going to make this sliding platform as well. Let me show you. It's going to be almost the same thing, except it moves horizontally. And yeah, that looks great. Okay, so let's just put it, let's see. Let's put it, I guess, right here. Yeah, okay. So I'm just gonna make those parts again. This wasn't a lot of work. And it'll be good for you to see it done twice. So let's make a block, and let me bring that over here. So this will be good practice because we're gonna do almost the exact same thing, except there's just gonna be one difference, or a couple of differences. Let me turn off the neon. Go to plastic. I hate that it moves these around, so I have to like look for them every time. Okay, and let's pick a different color. I want different colors. A nice violet. And remember, the platform was 818. So let's change that to 818. Okay, that's our platform. I'm gonna move it up a little bit. Okay, and then we need a button. So let me zoom in here. Oh, and you know what? Let me move this. Hold on. You know what? I'm going to move the elevator back a little bit to get it out of the way. There we go. That's better. Just so I don't have to mess with that. Oh, yeah. Okay, and then we need a button. So let me go ahead and add another block here and make that a different color. Let's make it a nice pink. No, nice red. Okay, and then make that one neon. And then, oh, that looks good. And then let's change the name and the size. So that's going to be button, whoops. And then what else? The size. I think we made this 212. Yeah, it looks good. Let me put this on top of my platform. That should be right. Okay, now we need a pole. So let's add one more part. Maybe not make this neon. Let me change the size, change the name. So pole. And then let's make it, I think I made it 230. Oh, you know what? This one's gonna go horizontal though. So let's make it, so this is the X direction going this way. So let's make that 30. And you'll see it doesn't really matter on the length. You could make it 1, but just to kind of show which direction this thing's gonna move. And let me turn off that neon and change, oh, let me turn off that neon and change the color. Nice blue. Yeah, it looks good. Okay. Now, let me think. What do we want to do next? Now what we want to do is, let me see, what's the size on this? 31.2. That's actually an okay size for it. Okay. Now we can go ahead and move this. Let me see. I guess I want this on the bottom. There it is. And then we need to align everything. So let me click on this and this using Control left click. And I need to move it up slightly and over and then over here. Okay. And let me go and check that everything's aligned. No, I didn't get it perfect. I was going to say that'd be pretty neat if I got it perfect. Okay, and let me just move the bottom pole to where they're perfectly aligned. And we need to check the blue coordinate, and that's the Z. So let's see what the blue coordinate is for position, which is Z13. And let's make sure that the platform is also at 13. And it is. Okay, they're both at 13. That means they're exactly aligned in the blue direction. So they're centered on each other. Okay, oh, the only other thing I need to do is I need to actually move this up slightly because we're going to make the connections real quick with the hinge constraint. So let me move this up. Oh, you know what? Let me select both of these and then move them up. There it goes. Okay, now I'm going to zoom in here because we want to make our connection. Actually, I guess I need a side view. This is the only tricky part. Okay, I think that's good enough. So what we need to do now is the same thing we did before, where we do a, I can't believe I forget this every time, a prismatic constraint. But this time we want the arrow, the yellow arrow. You see how it's pointing horizontal? We want it, oh, can I do that? Dang it, I don't, you can actually rotate these, but let me see if I can, I wonder if it's just the camera angle. Huh. Let me think. I got this to be 1. Oh, you know what I need to do? I need to make this 0.5. It's not letting me move enough. Yeah, there it goes. There it goes. Yeah, you know, so this is actually important. Let me show you what happened. So I had this at 1, right? Which means that the anchor points, they move by 1 unit every time. But we actually needed them to move a little smaller. So 0.5 is actually what I usually have these set at. And because then, look at this, it lets me move it much more accurately, and it lets me switch the direction just by moving it slightly. Okay, so we want these to be horizontal like that. So I'm going to click on this first one, and then I want to move my camera so that I can see. I love that I can move this and make sure, the arrow is pointing. Let me make sure the arrow is pointing the same direction, and that looks. Oh, there it goes. I think that's straight. We can check this after I put it down. The other thing you can do is once you have these, so they're both, the yellow arrows are both pointing horizontally along the ground. The other thing you can do is if you make a mistake, you can move these after. Let me show you. So let's say that I wanted to move this thing. All you do is click on the move button, and you click on this attachment, and then you can move it. Watch. In case you make a mistake. So let's say I didn't have it accurate. Let's say I put it in crooked. I could just go in here and move it over. Okay. Perfect. So that should work. And now let's go ahead and move. Let me move this out. Let's move this and this down 1, 2, 2. There we go. Oh, because I have it at 0.5. Okay. But the important thing is that these are both now right on top of each other. And then the last thing that we did last time was to create a weld between, oh, wait. It already did it? Huh. Okay, there must be a shortcut because it looks like it already created a weld somehow. Great. Okay. I didn't even have to click on anything. I just clicked create weld and it knew which. Oh, you know what it is? I didn't even know you could do that. Because these two parts were selected. Huh. Let me show you. That's actually kind of good. So let's still select both of these parts. So if I do this one, actually, wait, here we go. So if I click on this one and then I control click on this one, now do you see how the button and the platform are both selected? And then if I do create weld, it just creates a weld between those two parts. I didn't even know I could do that. But that is actually probably a better way to do it than what I've been doing. Okay, so we've got it welded. We have our constraint connected and everything is ready. The only thing now is to test it and make sure this works. So right now we have to set some settings on the prismatic constraint. We got to change it to a servo. And we have to change servo max force to 100,000. Whoops, I think I made it 1,000,000. 100,000. And then speed of 10. And then target position 0, right? So let's just test it and make sure that it doesn't fall apart or anything. Oh, wait. I need to make this one anchored. There we go. Now let's test it. Make sure it doesn't fall apart. All right, now let's test the, the target position. So let's make the target position. And one way you can remember that, remember how the little yellow arrows are, here we go. See how they're pointing? This is really hard to see. Oh, too much. So you see how man, I wish I could just, yeah. You see how the yellow arrow is pointing away, pointing to the right? That means that we're gonna have to move in a negative direction to move this way, right? But you could actually move in a positive direction, doesn't really matter. Let me show you. So now let's make the target position -20, and you can do both. So let's say -20, right? So if we start this, it should move a little bit. Watch. And it does. Perfect. Okay, now here's the great thing about this one. You can actually move it either direction. So now you can say, instead of -20, let's move it 20. Now it's going to move in the other direction. Watch. Play. There it goes. So either direction, doesn't matter for this one. Actually, it doesn't matter for any of them. Okay, so now we've got that. Now what we want to do is let's make this 0 again. And let's just copy that script that we had from the other one. That way we don't have to do all of that stuff again. So I'm just going to copy the script. So I'm going to say copy. And I'm going to say, oh, you know what I forgot to do? I didn't want to do that. I needed to group all that stuff first together. So let me get this. Let me just control left click everything and group it. And this is going to be my slider. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to copy the script here, copy, and paste into my other group. Okay, now here's the thing. I got to change the name. I've got to change a few things inside, but not too much. Script slider. All right, so let's open this up and then we can go ahead and change something. So this is the click detector. This is the prism connector. Let's see what changes here. So it's script, parent, button, click detector, script, parent. Oh, yeah, the same thing. Parent, pole. You know, nothing changes except, I mean, you can leave this number the same. I'm just going to make it -20. But I think that's the only difference. Actually, it's almost the exact same thing. Because we built these the same way, we don't have to change any of these child-parent relationships. That should be good. Oh, you know, one thing I do want to do? Let's make this, the pole invisible again. So let me make it transparency 1, and let me change the can collide property to false. All right, let's hit play, and let's see if it works. Oh, Oh, I forgot to add my click detector. Here's how I know. I got an error. It says click detector is not a valid member. I forgot to add it. And I do that a lot. So let's go into the button, hit the plus sign, add a click detector, and now it should work. Let's see. Okay, so my elevator comes down, but let's test out the platform. Ah, look at that. Moves me to the side a little bit. And moves me back. And then let me go test my elevator. Yeah, I really like these. And look at that. Smoothly takes me to the top. Smoothly takes me to the bottom. Yeah, I just really like prismatic constraints. Okay, that's enough for that. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed making those. Like I said, this is my favorite constraint just because the effect looks so good with such a small amount of work. And you know, you can be really creative with this, right? If you were making an obby, you could make platforms that move when you click on the button. You could actually make them. It'd be a little harder, but you could actually make them move whenever you step on them. That would be a little bit more involved as far as the code, but you can have buttons and have these as really, really great obby obstacles. Okay. And so we have one more, and it's the most complex one because it moves in 3 directions. It has 2 angles and 1 like sliding position. Okay, and that'll be the next lesson. So I will see you then.